Welcome, welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast.
Welcome to the plus size.
We're here. Hey, how you doing? I'm Kim. If you don't know me, that's weird, but I'm Kim because we're in season
Yeah.
3. And this is the Plus Size Podcast where we talk about kind of all things health and wellness at these days as it pertains
Really
to,
has. Yeah.
yeah, we've really evolved, but it is definitely centered around um, this medication or this class of medications right now called GLP-1 medications and all good things from health that come from that to treat different diseases or disorders. And we are here to learn and to, heal from many of us many, many years of, guilt and shame and to grow and, evolve into whatever the next phase of us is, you know?
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
glad to have you with us. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Manjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Manjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Manjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone.
Introducing Peptide Vite. It's the first daily natural vitamin to help support a reduction in the major side effects of GLP-1s. Peptide Vite supports fatigue, nausea, GI side effects, and promotes better metabolism. It is third-party tested, made in the USA in a FDA-certified facility. Peptide Vite is a game-changer all-in-one daily supplement. Pharmacist and physician formulated to be safe and effective. Use code PLUS20 for 20% off at zennutrients.com.
Here, you have no doubt just heard our amazing commercial and all of our sponsors, which help make everything possible. Thank you for listening. And if you didn't listen, go back and listen. It helps us.
Listen to it all or
It
watch
costs a
it.
lot. It costs a lot to do this. Just go watch. I've struggled with obesity since I was a young girl, since I was 8 years old. I struggled with a binge eating disorder. I was on my first diet when I was 8. I have lost 100 pounds using these medications over the past 18 months. And I guess I'm still losing. I don't know. Who knows? And I'm just kind of living my life and enjoying being able to move my body with ease around this world and have more adventures. And that's kind of where I'm at. So it is a journey. And if you hear us from back from season 1, I think I was maybe down like 50. So, it's quite a change, It's quite a change. And then here are my lovely co-hosts this evening, Kat. Who are you?
Hey,
What you doing? What you about?
what
Tell
you
us about
doing?
it.
What you
Who are you? What's up?
what you doing? Where you going?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Kat Carter 7 on the TikToks. I'm a lot like Kim, where I've had binge eating disorder that developed in childhood. Been overweight or obese as a child. I would say overweight up and then obese as an adult. Let's be real. I you're right, Kim. Things have changed. I lost 60 pounds. I think I was at 60 when we first started, and
Yeah.
a whole 10. Now I'm down 70.
And
There's
up a
a lot
lot
of
of muscle. Up a
muscle.
lot of muscle.
You get
Yeah.
it, girl.
And I have a fitty friend on the show now too. I have Sabrina. But Sabrina and I
I know
like to
you are
throw
the
the weights
fitties.
around and sweat.
Hey, I throw them around my kettlebell now.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's good. It's a good workout.
That's it. Actually, it's
You're right.
really great.
I
I
have
love the kettlebell.
I
Yeah.
saw a shirt today. I think I'm gonna have to get one for you, Kim. It's a disco ball kettlebell.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that.
Yep. Take it away, Sabrina.
Yeah. Who are you, Sabrina? What you doing? What you about? Why are you here?
Sabrina
How's it going?
Ramos. I am Brina_727 on TikTok. I have struggled with obesity for the majority of my adult life and recently got on a GLP-1 and I am down 59 pounds. So
That's great.
I am, it has changed my life. So
And
I'm very
up?
excited.
How many friends are you up? This journey.
Oh my God.
Countless?
So
So
many.
many.
You're right. We have a lot of
Yes.
friends.
Yes. Which is why we're all here really to begin with. So like Kat was mentioning this year, there are handles. I don't know. What do you call me? Sis? I'm an old lady. Handle, usernames,
Handle,
whatever.
I don't.
Handle. I say handle.
On TikTok, this podcast was born out of a community
Mhm.
that started, and TikTok has continued to evolve and become very, very large.
Yeah.
And we are really trying to change the narrative. And so we
Yeah.
are also going to have on a community guest. We do this almost every episode, to let them share their story unfiltered and uncut, as opposed to the media, who always has an agenda and is always, in my opinion, like taking our stories and making them, I don't know, trivializing them, right?
Just chopping them up too,
Chopping them up, hiding our bellies, like, just,
Yeah.
having, one of the worst things is like when you see the media and they're talking about obesity and there's a fat guy eating chips. You know what I mean? Come
Yeah.
on. Like,
Yeah.
stop. Like, could you
I'm
be,
walking.
Yeah.
yes,
walking.
Yeah.
right? Like, I just can't even, or like
Right.
drinking a Diet Coke, eating the potato chips, big old bellies, like, stop it.
Right.
Obesity is much more than that. It's a very complicated disease. So,
Yeah.
we don't like that. So we're fixing it here. Yay! Okay.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, we are going to intro our community guest. Nate. Moving Mountains on TikTok.
I'm so excited to have you on. You're like on our YouTube lives and like we get to talk to Nate.
It's so cool.
Yeah. I feel like I've been around for a long time. Yeah, I started researching stuff in like August and September. And I mean, obviously the podcast is a wealth of information. And so I quickly joined, and it's been a staple in my life every Wednesday.
Aww.
And it's kind of trippy to be here.
It's just us.
I'm excited.
It's just us.
So
We hang out on TikTok, and it's a different medium. It's just us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still the same stupid jokes. So.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. They're still good. So.
Well, we're very glad to have you. We'd love for you to take the space and be able to tell your story unfiltered, uncut. And then, of course, we will bring on a medical professional to help validate those experiences, because they are real and they are true and they are valid. So please take the space, and Kat and I will go on mute and not interrupt you. Yay.
All right.
We're on mute.
Awesome. So like I said, my name's Nate, and I have been in a large and obese body for my whole life. And it's been just something that has always been in my life, other than a couple of times when I lost weight or significant amount of weight. I've always been, thick and just it's all, I guess just always been a part of my body or a part of my life. I still remember when I was, I believe, 8 years old, and my mom took me to get my first pair of Husky Levi's. And that was a moment for me that really, obviously, I'm in the middle of my 30s, and that really stuck with me. And kind of, started that narrative in my life that this is just who I am. And, my mom had a mantra as I was growing up that she would repeat to herself, that taste is momentary and thin is forever. And, we've had lots of conversations about that over the years. And she, she was telling it to herself as a reminder, but that infiltrated into my mind and into my daily life, and it affected my thought process around food and around my body. And I wanted to be thin like everyone else, but my body didn't want to be thin. And so I've always known since a young age that there was something wrong with my body. The classic, like, look at a cookie and gain 10 pounds was how I perceived food. And it was always difficult to maintain weight. I've never really maintained a weight. So when people on TikTok talk about maintenance, I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. I've never done that in my life. And so that's going to be a scary but exciting thing to get to eventually on my journey. But so there's pictures from, super early on in childhood where I'm just thick. And so it's something that I never really thought that I would escape from, except for a few years in my early 20s when I was, somewhat smaller. It's always been a struggle. And so I think it really, the bulk of my journey can be summed up in my last weight loss attempt back in 2013, where I lost 90 pounds and hit a stall. And not just a small stall, but like years of a stall. And then the stall stopped and I started to gain weight to the tune of over 350 pounds over the next 10 years. And I went to an eating disorder treatment center here in Seattle in 2019, and I wasn't like anyone else there. Was one of very few people that were my gender, and very few people that were my size. I would see people getting their added like shakes at dinner or at meals, and I'd be like, there's got to be a way for me to get smaller if there's a way for people to get bigger, or gain weight, not necessarily to get bigger, but to be healthy. Really one of the things that I took away from my time in treatment was that there was no way, my providers would tell me that there's no way I could ever lose weight and manipulate my weight to be lower, and that I could never sustainably lose weight, and that I would just need to refeed myself and to just be healthy by nourishing myself fully. And I was like, okay, well, that's the end. So I wholeheartily took that in and believed that there was no way that I could ever change my body, and that I was just the body that I got. And I got the short end of the stick, I guess. And so as much as I didn't want to believe it, I kind of just resigned myself to believing that that was the truth. And I continued to go to therapy and go to primary care that also believed those things. And I continued to gain weight, and the pandemic really accelerated everything. And I actually did the math a few months ago and found out that I was gaining an average of 2 pounds per week. So my weight never stayed the same. And I got almost all the way to 600 pounds. And then I saw a random TikTok where someone was super stoked that they got a box of Manjaro. And I'm like, That's interesting. She has a lot of the same issues that I have, but I was just seeing all these women talking about these meds, and I'm like, oh, it probably isn't for me. And then I continued to see it in my feed, and came across you guys and came across the podcast, and I'm like, hey, I think that's for me. And so I was working from home and really not active at all. And it actually, my professional life came to a change, and I had to go back to in-person working at the hospital that I work at. And this is back in September. And I lasted one 12-hour shift because I couldn't physically handle the job that I was the job that I accepted. I was actually going back to a previous role that I had, and ended up kind of being forced to take a medical leave. And this was at the beginning of October, and I didn't have a plan, didn't have a doctor's note, but I just knew that I couldn't work anymore and that I had to come up with a plan. And I had kind of been following you guys and other creators on TikTok, and I had convinced myself that this is exactly what I needed. I'm like, I have all the symptoms. My edema had gotten really bad, and my inflammation over my entire body was horrible. And the classic, like, my neck was getting discolored, and other areas of my body, my skin was really bad. And I was getting really scared that I was going to start losing limbs. And I could barely walk. I could barely stand for 30 seconds to get food in the kitchen. I couldn't really take care of myself anymore. And so I talked to my PCP, who is aligned with Health at Every Size, which is a movement of people that are very fat positive and body positive. And she's like, I don't really think that this is for you. And I don't think that this is the right move, but let's do blood work first. Well, I didn't like that answer. And I've learned from all my friends on TikTok that I need to advocate for myself. And so I decided to go and see an obesity specialist here in Seattle that I've been friends with for a long time, growing up with his kids. And walked out of the meeting with a prescription for MJ, and the rest is history. Took my first shot on October 6th. And from October 6th to today, I've lost 87 pounds in less than... so I didn't start weighing myself until a week in. So I started weighing on the 13th of October. So we're still... what is that? That's like 7 days. So I still got one more week until I hit 4 months. It'd be really cool to lose 90 pounds in 4 months, but we'll see where I end up getting. But I'm really excited to hit 100 pounds down because I've never lost 100 pounds. Actually, it's funny because Cena actually quoted me from one of my recent videos, and that I've lost a lot, but I've gained so much more. The amount of life that has changed since October 6th is incredible. I was at work yesterday, as first day in a new role, and I walked over 5,000 steps. I took a tour on the first day that I came back off after my leave, and did a tour with the manager that is now my manager. And it was really difficult to walk those halls, and I was breathing heavy, and my feet hurt. The first couple of days or 12-hour shifts that I did, my feet felt like they were I was walking on hot coals all day. And I got to walk those same halls yesterday on my first day. And man, it was only a month, but it was a lot different. And my hobbies are coming back. My interests are coming back. I'm listening to music on the way to work again. I'm hanging out with friends just because I want to, and going to coffee shops and getting breakfast just because I can. I can drive again. I feel safe I have a manual shift car, so it's I can fit in my car, and man, life is so different. I can't wait to see what life looks like a year in, and it's yeah, I think you know, a lot of people have really liked the name that I picked for myself when I started this journey, and people are like, oh, like, so what does that mean? And I'm like, I mean, we're moving mountains. We've already moved over 90 pounds, so that's kind of the like thought process around that. But I also would really like to literally climb mountains again, and I think one thing too that was kind of like always rattled around in my brain as a large bodied person is that I always felt like an athlete trapped in a really large body, and which makes sense because I have a chronic disease. And so the real person inside of me is the athlete that wants to be running up mountains. And I love trail running, but my chronic disease has not allowed me to do that from a very young age. And so I've kind of like set a tentative goal. I don't know if it'll actually be this specific mountain, but I would love to climb Mount Whitney at some points once I get to closer to my goal weight and start training again. So I think that's kind of it for my story, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. And who knows? Maybe you'll see me on another episode when I'm at goal or closer.
Definitely.
So, yeah. Definitely.
It turns out I'm in charge. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
It's the only place I'm in charge.
And we love it here. So
yes.
Yeah.
Let me think of something. Do you follow this guy? I think it's called the Oatmeal.
The Oatmeal. No, I don't, but I'm about to.
He is. I'm on my phone, right? The Oatmeal. Oatmeal Comics. He's a
I think I have heard of that guy.
He runs. He's a runner. He ran quite a bit to lose weight. I don't know what else he did, but his comics are great. But he makes a lot of comics about running.
Okay.
Heavy guy and then running. Yeah.
Hey, that's cool. That's awesome. Nate, are you open to any kind of questions? If
totally.
I will totally stop if
I'm an open book. I've already been talking to coworkers, and I had to send out I didn't have to, but I sent out an email to my last team, and one of them I've only met a month ago because I've been in different roles and doing things for a while, and she emailed me back in response to my mass email, and she goes, "Hey, I just want to know if I can just like reach out to you and ask questions when I start Ozempic." I'm like, "You sure can. I'm an open book. Anything you need, any resources, I'm here for you." So
that's awesome.
I connected with a charge nurse that I've known for the 10 years that I've been there, and she just started a few weeks ago, and she kind of came back and forth during the shift, and she walked up to me and she goes, "I just want to really thank you for talking to me today, and it's made me feel less alone." And damn, that hit hard. Because I've only really talked to one person about how dark and heavy and alone I felt the last 10 years. This couch sitting right in front of me has been my closest friend. Well, and the TV right here. I've shut out most of my friends, not because I wanted to, because I can't drive. I can't get anywhere. No one wants to have those conversations of like, I can't even climb the steps to get into your house. Those are not fun conversations. And so it's, I feel like I'm coming alive again. It feels like a second life that I never thought I was going to get. And so, I'm an open book, and really appreciate open conversation and questions and all of that. So, yeah.
One of my biggest questions is, and because this is, if you know anything about like my story, which you do, I think, is that I had
the water check. The water check, Kim.
Oh, and
Wait, what was?
Are we all sporting? Oh, there's a link. in the show notes, if you're interested in this glorious,
Link in
guess what
bio.
happens? It goes
Podcast
link
10 for
in
$10 off.
link in the show notes. If you're interested in this water bottle, the proceeds go to help the podcast.
Yeah, this one does too.
Plus, it's cute. You know,
And it's an array of water bottles you can buy.
yes. Nobody goes to our merch store anymore. I need to start.
It really
promoting
helps
that
me hydrate throughout the day. So
yeah, I agree.
it's
I'm
actually
like
okay.
team
Can I say this really
big ass
quick?
water. Yeah,
Sure.
It is way better than my thermo flask.
I haven't tried a thermo flask. I tried an iron flask.
I bought it from Costco, and it
Yeah.
literally feels like I'm sucking molasses just to get my water out of the straw.
No.
It's defective,
no.
but
Yeah.
Sabrina's like,
this
no.
custom Stanley tastes and works a lot better.
Right.
The
I agree.
handle
I'm a
helps
big
too.
fan. I'm a big fan. It was hard at the beginning because it was so heavy. That's something JT, our other co-host, said. Is when she was like lifting it up. She was like, "This is huge," and I was like, "You're just gonna build your muscles, baby. That's strength training."
Right. I think about that every day. I'm carrying it into work.
But
Yeah.
so
Right.
yeah, as an alternative, this one right here, this is the best. Like if you're
What's your cycle bar one?
It's my cycle bar one. I stick
Yes.
it on the handlebars.
Love
very-
it. Love it.
It's convenient for workouts.
Mhm.
Truth. All right. So before the water break, I was curious because when I had gained, I've always been big, but then when I got put on a medication, one of the side effects was weight gain, and I gained 100 pounds. I swear it was like that. It was like less than a year. Bam, came right on. I couldn't get it off. And so I was like 27. I was married, and I knew I really wanted to have children. And I had heard about lap band, and I went and got lap band. And I lost, I want to say it's maybe like 70 or 80 pounds. That's the most I've ever lost until now. I'm now in 100, but I used to, that was it. And eventually after I did have a couple miscarriages, had my son, I gained weight back, but I only really reached out. I only knew bariatric surgery as like stomach stapling. Like that's how like I'm old, and so I was like very much like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to do that. That seems extreme, just typical stuff we tell ourselves because we're scared, And then I saw an episode on Oprah about lap band, right? And I saw a young girl had done it, and it was like the whole pitch was it's reversible, right?
Yeah.
And tried out, right? And so I proactively went and tried to find a way to get that covered with my insurance, and I was able to. And I went through all the stupid ass hoops that you got to go to prove yourself worthy to be healthy, and care. But I'm wondering, the one thing that I don't remember you mentioning in your story is, hey, I'd like to try bariatric surgery, or any doctors really saying that to you. And I'm curious why that is, because like, I would say mine never said it to me either. I had to seek it out. So can you tell me a little bit about that, or why maybe you didn't seek it out?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like a strange set of circumstances. I mean, I guess I'm typical that I don't like going to the doctor. Yeah. So I don't go a whole lot. I mean, I do now. I go all the time.
Yeah.
But I would say, I lost weight in 2013 and kept it off it took a while to gain the like hundreds of pounds, right? And so until like 2018, I was pretty good. Like I was gaining weight, obviously, and my quality of life was slowly going down. Mm-hmm. But especially before I went to treatment, I'm like, eventually it'll work. Like I was fully convinced it was my willpower that I just sucked at losing weight and keeping it off. But turns out you can't starve yourself. So that's how I lost the majority of that weight was just severe calorie restriction, and so which I don't recommend to anyone. And so I think that I just stopped going to the doctor.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, I gained this whole new team of people that didn't believe in weight manipulation.
Yeah.
And so I've been kind of in that cocoon since 2019. So for the last 5 years, I've destroyed my self-esteem and my internal dialogue because I was convinced that not only did I not have the willpower, but it was scientifically impossible to lose the weight and keep it off. Because they always repeat that classic stat that 95% of people that try and lose weight will gain it back and then some.
Yes.
It's true with uncorrected chronic disease.
Yes. That's how that works.
So, yeah, so it was just never an option. I did go during like the height of everything in 2020. I've been struggling off and on with cellulitis throughout my body. It comes mainly in my leg, my right leg. And so I have a protocol of just getting Keflex as quickly as possible because I know that it will shut it down. And so I went to an urgent care clinic a couple blocks away from my house. And the doc, before she left, she was like, hey, so like, I want to talk to you about your weight, and I think you really should consider weight loss surgery. And at the time I was like really like into the whole like I'm fine and I love my body. But I was dying inside.
Of course.
But I was also really mad at her for bringing that up, because I just think that like no matter what someone's belief is in a larger body, you have no right to bring that up as a provider, unless it's a safe space and you ask permission to bring it up. This person, I think, was feeling spicy because they had weight loss surgery themselves and were successful. But I think for me, when it comes down to it, I didn't want to manipulate my body. I didn't want to permanently change it, even though they say you can reverse some of them. I also have really close friends who got weight loss surgery when they were first coming out, and it has ruined her life.
Yeah.
And obviously we know a lot of people where it's been somewhat successful, or they're able to keep their weight off with meds afterwards. But it has really messed her up. And she's had so many complications. She'll probably end up watching this because we're just really close. And so we've had long conversations about the meds, and there's some interest there, but like so much hesitation because there's already been so much trauma from that. So, I've known them for a long time. And so that's my, well, I won't get into that, but I was just seeing people close to me. I also saw people in treatment that had, completely gained all their weight back. And now we're in eating disorder treatment. And
so it's just one more thing to fit the puzzle piece of you can't change your body, right? Yeah, that makes sense. I get that.
Yeah. And it's so weird because the meds just feel like the perfect answer. If it ends up working for you, and if your body accepts it, obviously I have just from being in the community, I know that my results are above average, and I wake up every day very thankful that my body has responded so well, and that it continues to just put up the same numbers every month. And very, very thankful. So which is why I feel so strongly about access to these meds, and I want everyone to have the same opportunity that I do. I also work at a regional hospital, and so my access to these meds is also just as easy. And so
this blessing for sure.
I wish I could give it to everyone.
Me too. When somebody was like talking about Weight Watchers and like trying to get, to see if I would ever be a influencer for a Weight Watchers clinic. And I was like, yes, for $100 billion. And then I will take all that money and buy medicine for all of my friends.
Right.
And I'll spit on the rest.
That's a great plan, Kim.
I thought so.
I think you should have done it.
Weight Watchers, give me
for $100 billion.
I'm willing to reopen the conversation.
You're Dr. Evil.
100 billion is the number.
Greed makes makes the conversation a little interesting. The pursuit of money makes companies. It makes things.
Nate, I wanted to tell you that I'm incredibly proud of you, and
I'm so proud of you too.
you are. You were talking about friends, and you mentioned that, but you have us, Nate. You have us, and you have that whole GLP-1 community on TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how close we all are. I mean, we talk every single day. We all hang out in lives and talk. I mean, you should be incredibly proud of yourself as well.
Thank
And,
you.
I agree. Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
Big fan. Applause.
We're Nate.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That actually came up in therapy today.
That's good.
Because I got some feedback from a really friend that I've had for a really long time. And then I mentioned that to my therapist, and she's like, did you accept that? Or did you immediately tell yourself that, oh, that can't be true?
I get that.
Yeah. And so, that's a huge part of my journey right now is accepting that I'm a good person and I'm a good friend, and I have something to offer, and that, and that I do love myself,
Yeah.
That, there's some big things to work on. So I really appreciate that, Sabrina. It really means a lot.
I honestly think you're very inspirational, and I love your videos, especially when you bring in the Stanley.
Right. I'll try every time.
Hashtag the Plus Sides Podcast.
Hashtag. Yeah. I'm telling you, during my leave, before things started getting better and before I was on the meds, that chat on Wednesday nights was my home.
I'm so glad.
I made sure I never missed it. So I missed my first one last week, probably because I've been back at work and just left my mind. But
it's hard for me lately to not make them all. It's just been very difficult to balance everything. So, but we try to always have it, which is, we do our best. But sometimes it happens, but that's okay, because we're always going to be there. If we're not there one week, we'll be there the next week,
Yep,
so
totally.
Yeah. We've had some people come recently, some new people that found me on TikTok come over and are just, they love to come to the lives, and interact, because it's like you said, so much of obesity is being alone.
Yeah.
And thinking it's your fault, and thinking the word pathetic and how pathetic I was that I had lap band and still had a binge eating disorder rings in my head.
Yeah.
It's a lot of healing to do. It really, really is, And it's a lot, because I remember when I started to lose weight, going, if it was my fault, then taking a synthetic hormone wouldn't be fixing my anxiety, my binge eating, my weight loss. I'm not doing much different. I'm eating a little less. I'm moving a little more. And I've had many times where I've eaten a lot less and moved a lot more, and stuff only moved about 30 pounds. That's it for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How is it possible? And what's possible is science. That's the segue. Did you like it?
I loved it. That was fabulous.
'Cause science. Okay. Now we're going to talk about science. Sounds like Hot Pockets, doesn't it?
I think it's so true, though.
Hot Pockets.
I feel like I never really had an eating disorder. I feel like it was all the disease.
Me too.
I think there were complications where I, binged, but it was all because I had the disease. The disease has been the problem the entire time. Yeah. It was never my fault.
It wasn't.
That's right.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
agree. There have been many times I went to an eating disorder therapist. I went to OA. But no matter how much I white knuckled, prayed, and no diss to Overeaters Anonymous. Every time I called my sponsor, oh my God, I want to eat this whole cake. But once I took Mounjaro, I don't even want a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Well, let's be real. I still like my sweets.
Yeah, sure. You're a baker. That's how that
I
works.
can walk by and be like, eh.
Eh.
So yeah, it did change something.
Yeah.
Here.
Yes. Let us
Yep.
talk about the science.
Let's
Let's
do
talk
it.
about science.
Let's talk about the science. Dr. Dina, we're so glad to have you with us. We would love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and how you help people.
So, hello, thank you so much for having me. And so, I am a pediatrician, but I'm also an obesity board certified physician. I work with patients that struggle with eating disorders like anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating, and also overweight and obesity. I work with adolescents, adults, and I help them find the best option for them to achieve a healthier weight and improve their physical and their emotional health. All right.
Well, that is awesome. And you mentioned something before about sort of like the spectrum between like overweight and obesity. And I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We live in a society that people stigmatize the disease. And we know that sometimes, overweight and obesity, or even with like eating disorders like anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating, there is a very fine line that differentiates one from the other. And it's very easy to cross from one to the other spectrum.
Yeah.
Very, very easy. So, for me, it's important to target, obesity, of course, but when a person is struggling with overweight and is unable to find solutions or things that help them, deal with this overweight, I think this is when we have to act. We don't have to wait until a person develops obesity then to say, oh, okay, obesity is a chronic disease, but we know that it's coming from being overweight, somebody that is struggling with this for a long, long time.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, that's fascinating. So, in terms of that, so, Kat and I specifically, and Nate mentioned too, struggled with overweight, right? At minimum, from children, from being young, right? Um,
Yep.
how do parents walk that line, right? When they can tell that their children are struggling, whether they struggle themselves or never do, like we know genetics does play a role in this, right? How do they do that? How do they go about saying the right things to their kids and getting the right interventions at the right time? Like, what have you seen there? What's like kind of a best practice?
So again, very tricky, very, very tricky, because parents at the end of the day want for their children to be the best version of themselves, right? And a lot of the times they project themselves on their children. So when you have a child, so the age plays a huge part, because there is a difference between a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, what stage of their development they are, and how to address it intellectually and emotionally also. So first of all is we try to avoid developing, having the child develop a complex about weight, making them so aware. Because if you're talking about a 5-year-old, a 5-year-old probably doesn't even perceive that there's anything that is happening. But if you have people, parents, siblings picking on them and telling them you should not eat this, you should not do that, or a sibling calling them, chubby or fat or all these words. So you're already putting words into this young child's age. And for older kids also, you're affecting their self-esteem, how do they feel about themselves, and how they start perceiving themselves in relationship to their friends. So I always tell parents that they have to be careful with their words. How do they use them to to talk about their child, but also when they are referring to themselves, because we have a lot of the times when we think about eating disorders, anorexia and bulimia, most of these disorders come from parents that spend half of their life obsessing about their own weight. And if a child constantly is listening, the mother or the father saying, oh, I'm fat, I ate too much, how many calories did I have, I can't believe I look like this, my belly is too big, my thighs are too big, what do you think is going to happen? This child we all live by example, and children are a sponge. So whatever they're listening, they're just already implemented in their head. So it's very important. How do we address these conversations with our children? And if you're noticing that your child is struggling, so the first thing that it needs to happen is take a look around. What are your lifestyles looking like? What are the parents? Where is the family eating? Are you actually providing the right food for your children? And we can't, ignore that people have different metabolisms. Probably your child doesn't have the same metabolism that you and your other children have. So you really have to put a pause and see what's actually going around in the household.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's something that probably all of us have experienced in some way, right? I do wonder, and this is like kind of a personal question. My son is very much involved in this podcast. He is very invested. Don't get upset. And I just hope I'm not screwing him up talking about it as much as I am. But I'm trying to have him understand that, like, just because mama has obesity, daddy didn't have it until he was later in life. And he is, so his son is autistic. And so eating and food is a challenge. There's not a lot of things that are safe. As he gets older, he expands a little bit more. And I don't want to put my shit on him. I mean, frankly, like and it's very hard because I got a lot of shit. I just was trying to explain to him one day, because he loves McDonald's hamburgers, but he doesn't eat. He just eats the meat because it's safe. So I just tell him, I'm like, you know what? How about this? You can have McDonald's hamburgers. Just start with the protein, eat the fries after, okay? And he's like, why? And I'm like, well, because it'll fill you up and you'll fill up with the right things, but you can still have something that's not optimum fuel or premium fuel. All of it's food and it'll get you where you're going, but let's just focus on your protein first, and then you could still have what you want. And that's the best I got at this point, because I'm happy that he's, really into like what we're doing here. He really like believes in it, but I do worry because advocating for people with obesity is a massive part of my life. I don't know. You got any advice? Loaded question.
I do. So
great.
The most important, when you combine children and weight, and also, let's say, being on the spectrum, or no, it becomes more complex.
Yes.
Right? Because they have a structure, a routine, and there's a certain things that patients like, children like, but you got to be very careful. Because how they like just can grab into one thing you say, and they are just going to stick to that.
Totally.
So it's all about being healthy. So I would just always reinforce, mommy and daddy are trying to make us a very healthy family. Never talk about restriction. Never talk about this is bad for you, or you should never eat that, or I will not eat that. Never about restriction, but what are the healthier options? Oh my God, look how delicious this look. And this is so tasty, and it's so healthy. It's all about becoming healthy.
Yeah, I like it.
Not to lose weight or not to gain weight, because I also, this is also a problem with patients on the spectrum, that they could develop, they tend to obsess the other way and develop anorexia. And I see it. And that's a very complex patient. I would say the most complex patient. So it's all about terminology. What words do you use? And if we're talking about a young child, it's all about being healthy and enjoying what you eat too. Making healthy food look fun.
Thank you. I like that. Thank you so much. Sorry, Sabrina, I didn't mean to hijack your question. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just have a question so we see some people develop obesity later in life, and many times people will deduce that to lifestyle. However, can there be genetic elements that develop in adulthood that contribute to obesity?
So definitely there is genetic obesity, and now science has advanced so much that we even have laboratory testing for DNA to, identify genes that are associated with childhood obesity and adult obesity. So, if we're talking about a genetic component, it's very unlikely that you were like a healthy weight or a low weight your whole life and suddenly you develop obesity in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. That's very unlikely. But because normally genetic obesity starts from 8 years old or even younger, but like during childhood. That said, you still, could develop obesity later on in life. And it doesn't necessarily has to be associated with lifestyle. Lifestyle absolutely plays a gigantic role, but you could definitely have hormonal imbalances. You could have metabolism issues, and you could be on medications that are required for you to take either for mental health that
Right.
promote appetite and eating, and people tend to gain a lot of weight. And we all agree that mental health is extremely important. So if those medications are working for you, then there's no reason to stop them. So we just have to treat the obesity part, right? And so we have all of those components that, can be cause of adult obesity. Oh, and we can't ignore menopause too. Perimenopause and menopause,
Oh yeah,
it's a big thing too.
it is a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would always forget about menopause does really affect quite a bit. I want to say maybe, I think I maybe might be going through it. I don't know, but I have an appointment with my doctor in a few weeks, so I'll figure that out.
So, menopause, you could be perimenopausal for a lot of years, up to 8 years before you actually enter menopause itself. So it's a clinical diagnosis more than anything. It's not such
Yeah.
much as a blood work diagnosis, but is, based on symptoms. So, and weight gain does go together with it, especially because fat starts accumulating in your body just by breathing.
Yeah. Things to look forward to, guys.
Yeah. But now we know and we can treat it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We could treat it now. Kim mentioned this before with her son, but with the question that I'm about to ask, of course, with childhood obesity, a lot of us, you mentioned, don't single the children out. So I know I was singled out. I'm sure Kim was singled out. Hey, you can't have this, you can't have that. And then it becomes like sneaking food. That was, from in my story. But in the onset of my teens, I dabbled with bulimia. So what are some of the signs as parents with teens that may or may not, or they may think or be suspicious that their children is suffering from an eating disorder? What sort of signs should parents look for or be aware of if their child is struggling?
Well, the first thing is weight loss, right? When the child is obsessed or focused on losing weight, excessive exercising, counting calories. Children should not be counting calories. You educate children about or adolescents about what's healthy, but calorie obsession is a big problem, and obsessed with their bodies, right? You constantly see them staring at their at mirrors, like seeing how their body looks and being very conscious of measurements, in your children's body. And it's by paying attention. It's not just like, let's say, if you have a child that has overweight or obesity, and suddenly the child is into looking better or like losing weight because all of their friends, weight less than they do, or because that's in or that's the trend. So you have to pay attention. It's not only like, oh my God, good for you, he's trying to lose weight, she's trying to lose weight. No, you have to pay attention as a parent, because this child could be depriving themselves of calories, and which I see it all the time, the transition from overweight to anorexia and bulimia, and very common, because they try, and they, and this is the negative aspect of social media, because social media is great for educating, but we have all these ridiculous trends, that make non-healthy bodies, attractive for patients with eating disorders that are not aware of all the dangers that this could cause your health. So really, really, you just have to make sure that you know exactly what's going on and talk. You need to talk. You do not assume. You talk to your adolescent and you question, like, what's going on? Like, I noticed you're doing this. You mind sharing with me? What's your strategy? Or what is your child doing? So because not just because like, oh, good for her, she's doing something, and ignore it. And then parents that don't struggle with weight, they're all happy that their child is embracing this weight loss phase without even knowing. And suddenly the child has lost an unhealthy amount of weight in a very fast time, screwed up all their hormones, stopped getting their periods if they're girls, and mentally it becomes a huge problem too, because of the fear of gaining the weight back. So it's very tricky. And, I think parents have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays where everybody has access to social media, to be able to differentiate what is, an intelligent advice versus a very uneducated, unhealthy advice.
I actually don't let my kid on social media.
Good for you.
I'm going off as long as I possibly can.
And that's the best.
He doesn't have a phone. He has an iPad, and it is all locked down. Like
perfect.
Don't
get me started.
I mean, he's 11. I'm like, how much longer can I make this work?
Like, you probably could get away for a year or two.
I was hoping effing college, at this point.
As long as possible, Kim.
Now that I'm a creator on the internet, I'm like, it's just a cesspool, and I don't want him anywhere near it.
Just because you have time to have another job, right?
I know.
Supervise your child's social media.
Exactly. Thank God for all those parental controls that we can do on screen time and blocking, and thank Lord. And although he's so smart, he's gonna figure it out.
They have friends.
Oh yes,
they're so good at it.
Your child might not have it, but their friends do.
Yeah. And it's and that's one thing that's interesting about my son, especially being on the spectrum. He very much wants to have a lot of friends, but sometimes the way he connects best is playing games with them. Right. So I have to find a balance, hopefully, I don't know. Let's just hope I don't screw him up.
You're doing great, Kim.
You interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.